This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Ann-Marie Andric, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR. Hello, Hanna.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
It's so great to have you here. Been wanting to invite you for so long because you have such a cool job, and we will talk about your job. And before we do that, please introduce yourself. When did you start at Spotify? What is your role? What did you do before?
So I started at Spotify around 3-4 years ago, and I always start with it because I think it's important that I don't have any kind of climate or environmental education background. I actually come from finance. So I haven't been that, I always recycled as a kid or so. It was more during my studies at Stockholm School of Economics that I became interested in this space, more due to the lack of climate in the education than that it was great courses around the topic. Because for me, it made perfect business sense to actually integrate climate and other sustainability dimensions into your organization. Mm-hmm. Everything from when you put a portfolio together to when you focus on your future product or, of course, organizational culture. Mm-hmm. So I actually wanted to write my thesis about it. But then my tutor first thought it was too far away from finance. So he recommended me to do something else, but I switched tutor instead, kept the subject.
Of course you did.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And it was during the time of, orange is the new black. So my thesis was called Green is the New Black.
Oh, of course. I love it.
Thank you.
I just love the fact that you switched tutor.
Yes.
How did he or she react?
Now he's actually, he was then inviting me later on because he was then representative for sustainable finance.
Yeah.
So I think he just woke up a little bit later than I did. So it's good to see. And now also I think the school has just integrated it in a fantastic way. And I think also many business schools and other higher education is really integrating sustainability in a good way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You went to the Stockholm Business School
of
Economics,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was during that time, so I started to write my thesis about it. And at the same time, I worked part-time also at a more PR communications strategy consultancy firm. And they also had then an opening in their sustainability team. So I started to work there as well part-time and then just become more and more interested in this space. So then a job opportunity came up and then I joined a private equity firm.
EQT.
Yes, correctly.
We were in the same industry because I'm in the private equity today.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I still think that it's an amazing also ownership form because you can really have that long-term perspective.
True.
And change a business. And that was great fun. I mean, we really started from day one. So put everything in place, had a lot of discussions in terms of why do we do this, how can we integrate this, and then also of course had the benefit of working with such a wide range of portfolio companies. So everything from the biggest harbor in the United States to small ventures companies.
True.
Yeah, so it was great fun. But it was during that time that I felt more and more that the tech industry was really interesting because that's where I felt you had the speed and also really the will to change an industry in its entirety. It was not just, okay, we tweak a little bit the business model. It was really, here we see a problem, can we change it from the fundamentals, so to say. And then the opportunity came up to join Spotify and set up their climate work. And then I felt that's where probably we can have the most positive impact.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
So climate lead today at Spotify.
Correct.
Wonderful. And a year ago, we had Ebba here, who is the sustainability lead for Spotify, and she walked us through high level all of the initiatives that you're doing. But that was a year ago. I'm sure that a lot of things has happened, especially in the climate area. So please share with us.
Yes, correct.
What has happened? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's full speed.
Yes,
and as I said, that's why I switched to Spotify, and it's been so good to see that it actually is that if you see something, people make it happen and fast as well. So we are just fortunate enough to have a company with so many passionate people that really also integrate this in their daily jobs. So what we saw then when I think you spoke to Ebba as well, I mean, there was a lot of initiatives going on. Maybe I should even take one step back and just explain where our emissions even come from.
Lovely, do that.
So emissions usually, when you talk about greenhouse gas emissions, there are 3 different scopes that all companies measure And it's scope 1, 2, and 3. And scope 1 and 2 is more if you own your own maybe production facility or a big vehicle fleet or something like that. So more your direct emissions. And for companies like Spotify and many other tech companies and service-based companies, it's often pretty low. For us, it's just around 1% of all our emissions. And instead, the majority of emissions are this scope 3, which is upstream and downstream from the value chain. So everything from things we buy in for the offices to cloud services we use and so on. So that has always been our key focus. And I think it's both ways, because one luxury is of course that we don't have that much direct impact and our overall impact is pretty low. But the difficult thing is of course that we are very dependent on our partners for it. So what we have done is focus on where do emissions come from, because if we understand that correctly, that's also how we can focus on the right initiatives, of course. So our main emissions actually comes from our marketing department, because we do, it could be everything from billboards to events to also digital advertising. And then another big chunk comes from our R&D practices, with the cloud usage being the number one really. And then of course we have offices and so on, but it's a little bit minor part, but still very important to focus on. So all of that, we saw a lot of great initiatives and did a lot of things, but still we saw that our emissions increased.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's just because we are a growth company, like also many other tech companies are. They are growing so fast, so it's sometimes difficult to decouple that growth from your growth in emissions.
True.
So we felt, okay, what can we do to make it even more integrated and also cut across the organization? And at Spotify, we have this process called the Spotify Rhythm with the bets board. I'm sure you are familiar.
And the bets are basically, these are the focus areas for the next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes we even break it down by a half year.
Right.
And then we felt, okay, can we actually integrate then climate into that? Because it is really requiring all parts of the organization. As I said, it's from marketing to R&D and GBS. So we submitted then a bet.
GVS is your facility organization.
Exactly, so the offices.
Office. Yeah.
Correct, thank you. So we submitted a bet and actually had it there on the bets board. So it then became a key focus area for the company. And due to that and also the continued great work by different teams in the organization, we saw actually a 15% reduction last year.
Fantastic.
Which was very happy to see. But also just that people feel that even they can spend even more time on this. And also, once again, it cuts across the organization.
Yeah.
So it's been great to see some of the initiatives.
Yeah, I can imagine. And how did you actually, in practice, do that? What did you do?
So it is all about also having a good process for it as well. So we have an excellent project manager, and she's kind of running that and making sure that we deliver on the targets we have set up and the different milestones. And then we have so-called bet leads for the different organizations. So we have for marketing, for then GVS, and for R&D, and also a very important work stream for finance. Because we also truly believe, as I said, I come from business, so I truly do believe that it makes business sense, and also want to integrate it just with any other kind of data and financial metrics, that you also integrate sustainability concerns. So all of those areas are working on it, and we're seeing great progress so far, which is very, very nice.
Yeah. And then obviously you get that engagement in the organization as well. Because your team, what does the team look like?
Very small.
Yes,
very
exactly.
lean. Exactly. Yeah. And
so
it's
you have to sort of, how do you say, delegate that responsibility and also create that engagement in the organization.
And I truly believe also that's the best way. As I said, I often, say to people, you don't need to have an environmental background to do this. I think it's more if you have the interest and the passion, and then also I'm always there to kind of be the sounding board or direct people if they want to know more. So I think the important part is just to make people that they feel comfortable about this space, because it is a lot of lingo. As I said, just the scopes here in the beginning, it's not super straightforward.
No.
So just that people feel comfortable with it, and then feel that they can actually do things as part of their daily roles.
Exactly.
So that has been great. So some people maybe do it with 50% of their time. For some, it could be 10%. Some it's just ad hoc at certain times of the year.
Yeah.
But it's really this amazing network of what we call our climate champions that are working on this. So nothing would happen without them. And I think it's really interesting and also a privilege to see how passionate people are at Spotify, and also that managers and so on, that they allow also that they can spend time on this, because that proves to me that we really see this as a business opportunity and not just, tick the box exercise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So big community, great ambassadors, and globally.
Yeah.
Because you're a global company, right? And someone is leading. Is that you? Are you then leading that?
So we have this
community?
bet structure,
Yeah.
exactly, and then we're also leading then and being there really as a sounding board and enabler.
Right.
I would say is the key thing.
Right. What has been the biggest learning for you?
I mean, I've been fortunate enough, as I said, I started this kind of early when it was not the big thing to focus on really. So I've had a lot of more maybe sometimes difficult discussions in terms of why sustainability is important. But what was interesting when I joined Spotify, it was never a discussion around that. It was always like everyone was already so passionate about that. And we have a very passionate also leadership regarding climate that we really should do something. But also across the organization, people are actively, reaching out with ideas and so on. And that's the best part of my job. When someone proactively reaches out and have this amazing solution, or else just like, oh, I did this, and then I actually saved these amount of tons of carbon. Do you think that's good? So I'm fortunate enough to have such a nice organization to be part of.
Yes.
So that has been maybe not the learning, but at least something that positively surprised me.
Yeah.
But in terms of learning also, it's of course the difficulty with being a fast-growing company, that how do you then decouple the growth in emissions and how do you really think about it in an early stage? So when you're planning a new product feature or something like that, how do you then ensure from the get-go that actually you take care of the climate concerns as well? Because often it goes hand in hand also with profitability and so on.
It does. That's a brilliant cliffhanger for another invitation.
Yeah.
To another episode.
True.
Yes.
True.
So what I will do now is thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Extremely inspiring, and also nice to hear what you have done, since you joined, and also what has happened during the past year. And then for the next episode, we will talk about in practice, what are you actually doing, and how do you make that impact on the external world as well? Does that sound like a good plan?
That sounds good.
Brilliant.
Yes,
Okay.
love cliffhangers.
Good. Okay, so Hanna, you know how we close these episodes?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I did practice.
Let's try it.
Yeah.
The 3 things.
Okay.
Okay.
So stay safe, stay strong, and stay active. Did I say it right?
Perfect. And then together?
Yeah.
Yes. Idemo?
Okay, you say it first.
Yeah. Idemo dalje.
Okay, now again, ready.
Okay.
Idemo dalje.
Like Serbian, Croat, Bosnian, whatever.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you. Och då är det så här, anledningen till att de här är här, det är för att Simon inte vill att vi ska röra oss ut. Nej, precis.
Det är bra, för jag rör för mycket på mig, så det är bra att ha en bur faktiskt.
Ja, men precis.
Om jag modererar en panel så är det alltid att vilken som är deras pepplåt. För att det är kul att se hur otroligt olika folk har, men hur också alla har typ Queen eller ABBA.
Är det så?
Ja, väldigt mycket Queen och ABBA, typ Don't Stop Me Now och sånt där som pepplåtar folk har.
Don't stop me now. Och ABBA, är det då Dancing Queen eller?
Ja, typ. Det är majoriteten av folk, så folk har ganska lika musiksmak. Någonting.
Vad har du då?
Jag har den är helt annorlunda, Batman-soundtracket.
Jaha.
Ja. Jag älskar de här Batman-filmerna. Ja. Så det är väldigt pampig liksom. Han åker upp nu i någon grotta och ser den låten. Inte Dancing Queen. Absolut inte Dancing Queen.
Okej, vad synd.
Ja.
Jag har eventuellt Dancing
Du har det.
Queen.
Ja. Men det funkar ju alltid.
Men jag blir glad av den.
Ja.
Och den påminner mig om min ungdom.
Ja.
Du vet, hopprep.
Ja.
Ja.
Nu har vi tagit det viktigaste i alla fall. Då kan vi gå över till annat.
ABBA och Batman.
Tack.
Men
Jag har ju
du är
typ tränat
duktig.
min röst också, för jag har ju tappat rösten i måndags. Så jag fick panik. Ja.
Nej.
Ja. Kombination festival med hippa. Not good.
Inte bra. Nej, just det, precis. Ni hade ju exakt.